Hey everyone, it's Ken from TableTopical, and today I'm here doing another 10-minute review, this time of the Citadel Mouldline Remover. So this is a tool that I've had in my arsenal for a little while now, probably about a year or more it came out, but I've had it in my hobby arsenal for a little bit. I basically use it all the time now. Anytime I'm putting together a plastic model, it's basically the thing that I use about 90% time for removing mold lines. So what exactly is it? So it's basically just a piece of metal here in the middle. Uh, then there's a handle, which is also like some sort of light metal. Um, so it has this really nice like grip to it. But yeah, it's actually a pretty simple tool. Essentially, the way that it works is you take and you take the edge, focus there. Um, Basically, what you do is you just rub it along mold lines that you want to remove. So super duper easy. And one of the things that you'll notice is that I can be, I can do anything with this up against my fingers. And it's not going to cause any problems because sharp. You just use the edges of the metal to scrape away the mold lines. You can see here that basically I just take it and take the edge, not straight on, but like the edge of it, just scrape away the mold line. So it's super duper simple to use. Super duper simple. So you can see here that I can just sort of do this, not really think about it too much. I can just scrape, scrape, scrape away, and while I'm doing that, I can watch a video, clicks or a video or some podcast, anything like that, and I can feel pretty good that the end result is not going to be anything bad because this isn't really taking away too much plastic because there's no edge. Um, so it's something where you can just sort of mindlessly do some mold line removing without really thinking about it, which I really like. So it's definitely something. It's a tool that is, like I said, basically something that I use almost all the time. Now, of course, there are a couple instances where the X-Acto blade, like I said, this is like 90% of the time I use it for removing mold lines, but there are those 10% corner cases. So talk about those. So there's a couple of times where I think you really need to bring out the X-Acto knife. And one of those times is when you have a little bit bigger of a burr, or whatever you want to call this, where you're clipping off the sprue. Even with a good pair of sprue clippers, you still occasionally get some of these bigger little burrs, bigger burrs. The bigger burrs. I don't know if I have any on, maybe like this on the bottom of the rocket here. Actually, but if you have these bigger burrs, you might have to sort of scrape away at them. So, because you're not going to really get at those big burrs with mold line remover. In this case, this is actually a pretty small one, so it's not that big of a problem. But if you've ever worked with plastic models, I'm talking about. The other time when you're going to need to use your X-Acto blade is what you'll notice if you pair these. You can see that the X-Acto blade, the tip is much finer, much easier for it to get into the nooks and crannies than the mold line remover here. So for example, if we take and we look at the rocket launcher here, the X-Acto is going to be able to get into these really hard to reach places, whether it's a rocket, see this cable right here getting in there. Whereas if you look at the little mold line remover, you're not really going to be able to get into there or really effectively get in between these rockets here. So, there's going to be times where you just can't really get into those places. And usually what I'll do is I'll just like keep going around the model until I get one of those spots. Throw down my Mouldline remover, pick up my X-Acto knife, do whatever I need to do with X-Acto, and swap back. So it's actually not really that inconvenient. So, it's something where really what this is doing is it's saving you, a couple seconds, maybe a second or two each model, where you can just sort of mindlessly do this. And I think it's more quick as well than using the X-Acto blade, because it is sort of a more rigid surface, so you can get rid of those bold lines much more quickly than with the X-Acto. So, I mean, the nice thing about that is if you save a couple seconds per model, then, if you have as big of a model backlog as I do, a few seconds per model for a couple hundred models, that's not nothing. And that gives you more to do whatever else you want to do with your models, especially if you don't necessarily enjoy assembly of models. So, it's nice. So as far as, the pros and the cons, and I mentioned some of these already, I'll just tap this back up again. So as far as the pros and the cons of the Citadel Mouldline remover, yeah, it's super duper quick, super duper easy to get those mold lines removed. Like I said, even if it's just a couple seconds over a lot of models, a lot of time. It's well built, really sturdy. I don't feel like I'm going to maybe ever need to buy another one of these, just because it is so solid. It's just a few pieces of metal riveted together. So I don't foresee myself needing to buy a new one. The other cool thing is you don't need to buy replacement blades like you would with an X-Acto. One of the most annoying things I think of an X-Acto blade, that you're going to have those times where you're doing the modeling and something like every month or two, I think I need to replace my X-Acto blades, and depending on how much modeling you're doing, it could be more or less often. So nothing's more annoying than having a dull X-Acto blade, having to go out and buy another, order them from Amazon or whatever. It's just really inconvenient. And then also, there's no risk of accidentally chopping off a large piece of plastic or a large piece of your thumb with this, which is nice. So it's a little bit more safe. So if you're trying to get maybe your kids into the hobby, this would actually be a good way to let them scrape off the mold lines, I think. As far as cons, yeah, it does struggle to remove the larger pieces of plastic. So you're gonna have to swap in the X-Acto blade when you have those large burrs. Can't get into some of these harder to reach places on the model, rockets or so again, you're gonna have to swap in with the X-Acto blade. Also, it is a little bit pricey compared to an X-Acto. That much more pricey, but it's something to think about. But I do think that because you don't have to buy the extra blades, it does pay for itself over time. So even if it's a little bit more of an upfront cost, I think it's well worth it in the end. But yeah, that's my review of the Citadel Mouldline remover. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. If you use it, if you haven't used it, let me know. Do you think it's a waste of money? Do you really like your X-Acto blades? Do all that YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, all that jazz. I'm new to all of this, so anything you do to help out, really appreciate it. Thanks.